Hello again. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, and we are doing yet another Coffee with Geeks. So we have Matt Lane, Vice President of Customer Experience over at GEIST Global. Basically, they build and sell data center infrastructure type equipment, PDUs, cooling equipment, monitoring stuff. And we're going to talk about that today, talk about what GEIST Global does, why the hell it's in Lincoln, Nebraska, of all places, and just have a conversation for about an hour. So thanks for being here, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good morning.
Yeah. So the big question, the first question I always ask people when they come on to Coffee with Geeks is everybody has these titles nowadays,
Yeah.
and I literally get questions from people that get hired where they're like, Eli, what does my title mean? So when you say like Vice President of Customer Experience, what does that actually mean?
That's a good question because I'm not sure I know completely either. Um, we
Okay.
it's a funny title. It's kind of a Silicon Valley startup kind of title, in my opinion. For a Lincoln, Nebraska manufacturing company, it's a little odd. However, when you look at everything that I do, we tried to figure out how to wrap that into a single title, and ended up with Vice President of Customer Experience. So, the things that I'm in charge of are I handle our software product line. So that's actually where I came from. How I got to GEIST was through an acquisition at our previous company. GEIST bought the software division from our previous company, and I came with that particular acquisition. I handle our professional services group, our tech support group. I do software engineering and user interfaces comes to me, product management, product marketing, and just most recently here the full marketing team. So it kind of wraps in a whole bunch of stuff that just ends up like, what do you call that? I don't know. It's an eclectic group, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, with all of those tasks, it seems like one of any of those dozen tasks should be a job itself. Do you just have a little bit of work in all of those things, or do you work 18 hours a day?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it feels that way. It's I mean, it's an executive position, so I have great people that report to me, and that's how I'm able to kind of have responsibility for those things. I don't get into, well, unfortunately, in a lot of cases for me, I don't get to get into the fun details too much anymore.
Okay.
So it's about leading and communicating and solving cross-departmental problems and things like that.
Oh, okay. Can you give us like an overview of your career? Like, how did you get to that position?
Yeah, sure. Um, I went to school for computer science, and when I got out, the dot-com boom was like really going crazy, and so I got lucky and got into a company just doing. It was a small business, and I just did kind of all their IT. So
Mhm.
I handled anything from networking to desktop support to the servers and backup schemes, um, and got into programming as well. And so I did, we kind of created a custom MRP program for this manufacturing firm that I worked for. And so I got to be the lead on that for a while, and progressed through that company to essentially starting what is today the Environet product that GEIST has. So
Okay.
we were a data, the previous company I worked for was called RLE Technologies. They're also a data center company here in Colorado, where I'm from. And they we started looking at the market, and we were reselling another building management system product, and we started having some problems with the supplier. And so we thought, you know what, I wonder if we could figure out how to do this on our own. And so we found a few technologies that we kind of patched together, and went to the market with this idea that we could create a real-time monitoring system. This is about 10 years ago now.
Mhm.
And it was for, when I say real-time monitoring system, that can mean a lot of things, I suppose. This is for infrastructure monitoring. So we're talking about looking at things like UPS readings, power distribution or the full power chain, temperature, humidity, environmental conditions, that kind of thing. So we started into that, and I got to lead that at RLE, and then got acquired by GEIST. And I've been here at GEIST and just kind of sucking up other little elements that I get to be in charge of and have fun with from time to time. That's really been it.
Oh, that's cool. So in order to get to like an executive position, you're talking about like your bachelor's degree. Did you have to get your MBA or something at some point, or have you just gone up the ranks?
I've always kind of continued ongoing education, I guess you could say. But no, I don't have the MBA piece. I guess that's one of the advantages sometimes of working for a small business is some of the degrees, while they're valuable, and I wouldn't discourage anyone from trying to get one, of course. Um, Sometimes in a small business, it's more about what you can do, not what you have on paper. And so I've been lucky that way, and just being able to prove myself, and really, I mean, over the, I don't know, 20 years or so that I've been doing this, you kind of get your own MBA, I suppose.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of guys that work for me here that have MBAs or that are working on their MBAs, and it's always interesting to talk to them and hear what the academic world says about things. And I get a lot of feedback from the academic world, which is always fun.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to have, but no, I don't have that. I'm just a normal guy.
Okay, cool. So that's you. So then when we start talking about GEIST, what does GEIST then actually do? What's kind of background of GEIST?
Yeah, well, Geist was established in 1948. The original
Oh,
Geist,
wow. Okay.
called Geist and Winders back then. They were a plastics business,
Hmm.
and what happened really was our founder is named Sam Featherston. Sam decided he wanted to create a plastics company. And so he went, he got an investor or two and went out and started buying small plastics businesses in the United States.
Mhm.
And one of the businesses he bought was this Geist and Winders. And they were, I believe they were an extrusion shop. They're extrusion now, and I think that's what they were at the time as well. Um, and back in the corner of this plant that they bought was this small little line, where they were a manufacturing line where they were creating these power strips, and they were supplying power strips to a particular industry that was kind of up and coming with the data center. And it was just a couple 100,000 in revenue. It wasn't really hardly even worth its salt at the time.
Yeah.
And somehow, some way, they managed to just grow it and really got entrenched in the data center business. And now have worked it into a worldwide company really that has multiple divisions, multiple product types, but really the flagship is still this power product line that was
Huh.
started, in a plastics plant.
Real. That's kind of funny. So do they still do the plastics, or do they just do the tech stuff now?
Yeah, we're owned by a company called PCE.
Okay.
That's the Lincoln, Nebraska company.
Yeah.
And PCE has three plastics plants, two in Lincoln, one in Brookfield, Missouri.
Okay.
Um, and then, so there's a whole plastics division still
Yeah.
of PCE. And then there's the technology division, which has really all been branded Geist now.
Okay.
And so you've got those two separate kind of divisions.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I mean, the big thing now when you hear about tech companies is all supposed to be about passion and what you love. It kind of sounds like your owners are just basically following the money, and this is just happens to be where it went. Is that basically how it's gone?
Yeah, I mean, Sam is a really interesting guy. That's you couldn't ask for a better person to work for.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just really caring about his employees and wants them to succeed in every way. What he grew up doing was working in plastics plants. He managed and operated a couple of large plastic plants, and so that's what he knew.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that he would say, that it was the big passion of his life was plastics. But I mean, he's very, very good at it, and he definitely knows what he's doing there for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I mean, really, he stumbled into this power strip and technology side of things.
Okay.
And if you look at the way that he spends his hours these days, if I can be so bold for him, I think he really enjoys the technology side of the business. He spends a lot of time in the technology side of the business, and it's fun. It's growing. It's new. There's a lot of competition. That's fun trying to keep up with the times and things like that. The technology side is definitely fun.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So then we start looking at guys. So I know what your headquarters is Lincoln, Nebraska. Like how many like how big, how many employees do you have, and like where are the like main offices? I guess.
Yeah, we are. GEIST is 250 employees worldwide.
Oh, that's
I
it.
think our parent company PCE is about 400 last I looked, somewhere around that number.
Oh, okay.
Um, so small to medium size kind of thing for the data center industry, anyways.
Yeah.
Um, in Lincoln, we have the two plastic plants that are pretty decent size, and they're actually pretty cool to go through. They're all automated because the only way we can keep up with um, really the overseas plastics market is to just completely automate the thing.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
So we have all these big, robots essentially that are creating plastic parts, and a single operator or maybe a couple operators to make it all happen. But it really, the product feeds in, it goes through all the process, and then gets put into a box all by the robot, really. And our guys just make sure it goes, the way it's supposed to go, and check for quality and things. So the plastic plants are there. The GEIST plant we actually just opened up a new facility in Lincoln there for GEIST last year. It's about 87,000 square feet.
Okay.
So it's a pretty good size manufacturing facility. We still have the other building down the road. Actually, GEIST owns like this street, kind of Yolande Avenue in Lincoln, Nebraska is kind of GEIST Street.
Hmm.
And so we've got lots of building space there that includes all of our headquarter operations, our front office stuff all happens out of there. There's a lot of our inside sales and things like that happen there. And then, of course, the manufacturing is it's a really nice facility. They did a really good job of just building kind of a first-class manufacturing operation there.
See, that's a curious. So you're doing the manufacturing out of Lincoln. Like, I guess, like the one question, like why Lincoln and not California, where I guess all the cool kids go, and then why even the United States in 2017?
Right. Well, I mean, we're simply not that cool to be in California. I think. Um, uh, I think really it's Lincoln because that's where Sam planted himself and started some of these things. The plastics plants were there, and we've just always stayed there. The cost to manufacture and the cost to live in Lincoln is pretty affordable. While it may not be the flashiest spot on the map, what you'll find about people in Lincoln is that they're very they're passionate and dedicated to their city. If you've ever gone to a Cornhuskers football game, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. The sea of red of 90,000 people in that stadium, where the whole state shuts down, shows you the commitment that state has to not only Nebraska football but just Lincoln, Nebraska generally. So it's a good place for us to manufacture. Would I like to be owned by someone in Hawaii or something like that? Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But Lincoln's what we've got. The other question, let's see, you said why
Oh,
Lincoln?
and not why in the United States, honestly. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
thought everybody went to China. I thought China was where you had, I mean, that's what you hear so much is you have to do it in China. So that's curious.
we set up an operation in China for a short while, and we didn't find it that much difference from a cost perspective. What
Oh,
we've done,
really?
yeah, what we've managed to do in our plants in Lincoln is, and actually I haven't even talked about our facility in the UK as well, but we have a manufacturing plant in Taunton, England, which is kind of Western England.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the equivalent of Lincoln, Nebraska for the UK. It's just
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
a country, small town kind of thing off the west coast there,
Yeah.
but great town and great people. Um, so we've what we've managed to do, and one of the unique selling points for Geist really is our ability to manufacture at a very cost-effective level, so that we can compete with the Chinese offering, right? So we have to be automated in what we do. We have to be very good at quality, so that we only touch something once and we don't, have to constantly rework it, because that is such a huge cost for us. We have to. The other thing is we're a lean manufacturer, is what's called, and lean just basically means that we don't stock anything on the shelf other than pieces and parts. So
Okay.
if you order 250 power strips from us today, and you want them shipped in our standard lead time, which is 3 to 5 days,
Yeah.
we build every single one of those to order. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of a, you know, a Burger King, get it your way kind of operation there, where we really can make anything you want from a PDU. That's another unique selling point for Geist, is our ability to just tailor or customize to whatever your specific need is, and then deliver it in 3 to 5 days lead time. So, you know, there's a number of different things that we've had to do to keep our cost in line so that we can be very competitive with what's coming out of China, especially when you factor in shipping and that kind of stuff coming from China.
Huh, that's interesting. So where does Geist then fit into the scheme of things for like data center equipment? Like how big are you and who are the other players that you compete against?
Yeah, we're actually, if you look at the data center as a whole, we're a very, very small piece of what the data center comprises.
Okay.
So what we do is we build these intelligent power strips. I've got like one of the little marketing kind of samples here. So these intelligent power strips, it's really kind of silly when you look at the market size for just power strips in the data center. When you're talking about plugging in potentially 42 servers
Mhm.
into, you know, in a single rack. You've got these racks of servers or switches or whatever storage that's in these cabinets, and you have to, and they all eat a lot of power.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
what you don't think about is, well, you know, at home you just buy a power strip and you plug in whatever to your power strip, and then if that power strip fills up, you plug in another one and you plug more stuff into it.
Yeah.
In the data center, that doesn't really work because the amperages are so high, the voltages vary as to whether you're running a high voltage application or, you know, kind of a medium or a three-phase application, and so they become very specialized and very industrial.
Hmm.
And that marketplace is, you know, it's $1 billion marketplace for just power strips.
Really? Per
Isn't that
year?
crazy? Yeah, per
Holy
year.
crap. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Huh.
it's an absolutely mind-blowing thing when you consider there's 2 power strips in every rack. Okay, so that's
Okay.
good. But how many racks does it take to get to that kind of market size for just PDUs that cost you, you know, maybe anywhere from $200 to the really expensive ones that do all the switching and all this stuff, or maybe $1,000. It's
Yeah.
still a tremendous amount of power strips.
Really?
So
Yeah, okay.
Geist, that's our core, is power. We have a couple other product lines as well, but within that core, we still have just a minimal market share within that. I mean, we're not the biggest player in power strips. We're in probably the top 4, I would guess.
Oh, okay.
But you know, it's a big marketplace out there, and when you consider the enormity of that number just for one component of the data center,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a silly component, really, just something to plug things into. Then you can kind of get the vast scope of how fast data centers are going and what the investment in data centers is across the globe right now.
That's amazing. So since you're number 4 and you say you're small, just out of curiosity, because again, you hear startup world, everybody's trying to monopolize everything. Is there like what's the block for growth? Is it competition or your boss just doesn't want to grow that much bigger?
No, it's not really. I mean, competition is fierce out there. There's big brands, big names.
Yeah.
You know, Geist as a small business is competing with behemoths. I mean, we're competing with Schneider Electric, that's a, you know, multi-billion-dollar corporation. We're competing with what used to be called Emerson Electric, but they spun off their data center group. They're a behemoth. I mean, they're I want to say they're 10 billion maybe.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, those are the 2 leaders. Eaton is also another leader. I mean, these are just behemoth companies that um, they offer a full data center product. So
Yeah.
they don't offer just power strips. They say, let us come in and build your whole data center for you. And so you get their switch gear, their UPSs, their all their transformers and things, their power distribution panels. And by the way, you also get the thing that Geist makes. You get that from them too, and it's all integrated into one package.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
what Geist has to do is go find companies that are interested in best of breed kind of technologies and bringing that together in a more cost effective way versus just supplying, here's everything that you might need to run a data center. So that's really the cap to our growth. But we've been good. I mean, we've grown year over year for, I don't know, 14 or 15 years, something like that.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
it's been good growth, and
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in our company is complaining about the size that we are right now. Anyways, feel pretty good about where we're at.
Oh, okay. Well, you see all these tech companies, right? If you're not worth $100 billion,
Yeah.
you're just not in the game or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, because we have manufacturing roots,
Mhm.
we are really a different beast than what you get with a lot of these startup companies. We're completely privately owned, so we have no venture capital. We really have no debt.
Oh,
We're owned 20% by employees that work within the business,
wow.
and then the rest of it is owned really by two or three people, and one including our CEO. So if you count him in the people that work in the business, were owned, majority for sure by people that work in the business. And
Okay.
venture capital just isn't something that's interesting to us at this point. It's a complicated thing to be owned by another venture group that wants particular metrics and wants you to operate in a particular way and things like that. We really like the private route where we can be nimble, we can do the things that we see the market is interested in us doing, and invest the way we want to invest.
That makes sense. So then you said your second factory you opened up in the UK. Just out of curiosity, do you know like the reasoning behind that? I would figure with shipping nowadays, just having one central factory would be fine.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you have to do with GEIST, or one of the GEIST unique selling points, is the ability to deliver in 3 to 5 days
Okay.
on any product. So you have to do some local manufacturing. Number one, for cost, and number two, for speed of delivery, right?
Okay.
A lot of those big behemoths that we're talking about, they manufacture in India or they manufacture in China, and so their lead times are 6 weeks. And
Wow.
we're
Okay.
3 to 5 days. So you need PDUs now, no problem. We can ship them to you, by the end of the week, kind of thing. So we bought the plant in the UK to kind of expand our reach in the Europe. We did acquire a company there called DPS. Now they're just referred to as Geist Europe, but it's about a 20,000 square foot manufacturing plant there. So it's not near the size as Lincoln, but still has really good output on what they can do. And it's completely harmonized, which is kind of cool, which means if you order a power strip out of the Lincoln plant and you order it out of the Lincoln plant, or sorry, out of the Taunton plant,
Yeah.
they come out exactly the same, even down to, do we use metric screws or do we use, imperial stuff? So everything's harmonized, so you get the same product throughout the world from Geist.
That's interesting. So if you don't have anything in Asia, does that mean you're not interested in Asia, or is that just another step down the road?
We have a sales and marketing kind of operation kind of our operational office in Asia. So we're in
Yeah.
Shenzhen, China, and
Okay.
we've
Yeah.
got 5 or 6 salespeople through Asia.
Yeah.
What we haven't done, we set up a very small line to manufacture products there for a short time, and from a cost perspective, it just didn't make sense at the time. So we kind of killed that idea and said, you know what, we're better off just to more fully utilize the plants that are really set up to handle the volume.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we closed the manufacturing part down, at least for the time being, and really made that office into what they're really good at, which is sales and marketing and promotion of our product, and getting things moving out there. The Chinese market's different, though. It's really the Asia market's different.
Yeah.
It takes some unique characteristics for a company to really go over there and just open up shop and be great at what you do there. And so we're learning our way through that a little bit. It's still an area of growth for us, an area of interest, but we don't have a plant there yet.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just so curious because you hear all the manufacturing has to be done in China, and if you're not selling in China, you're going to die. So it's kind of curious. You're not doing either of those things, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So then with guys, so PDUs is the main thing that you sell, but you've got other stuff. You've got cooling, you've got DCIM, you got monitoring. So what else? What are the other products you guys sell or build?
Yeah, the cooling product line is really interesting from an IT perspective. We have if you're in the data center world, we have a heat containment system.
Okay.
So in the data center, in these data centers, you have so much heat that's produced by all of this infrastructure that's operating, right? Because you're consuming just massive amounts of power. I mean, some of these data centers that we've been to recently, they consume more power than the entire city that I live in. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And that power gets transferred to heat,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, the output of utilizing power is heat. So you have to cool these data centers down. And so one of the ways that has been established over the years is a hot aisle, cold aisle approach. So essentially,
okay.
all the servers and racks in a row, they face towards each other. Okay, so
Yeah,
the fronts of the servers face towards each other in a row, and
yeah,
the cold air comes up from the tiles and feeds into those the fronts of the assets, right? The IT assets,
yep.
and then the assets consume the air to cool themselves and spit it out the back. So then on the other side of that, you have a hot aisle where the two rows
Hmm.
spew out all their hot air.
Yeah.
And what we do is we contain that hot air. So we put basically a cap on the hot aisle so that the hot air can't go anywhere, and
Huh.
we feed it directly back to the computer room air conditioners. And so it's a nice efficiency kind of thing. When you're looking at operating a data center, your cooling costs are one of the primary costs. And so if you can make it much more efficient, that's a big deal. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. But the other simple thing we have in the cooling line is what we call switch air.
Okay. Yeah.
So your viewers may be a little more connected to this type of product where it's a cooling switch. Um, uh, well, it's a
Yeah.
network switch cooling product. So what
Right.
happens is on a lot of network switches, they feed side to side. The airflow goes side to side
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you can't suck the air in the front because all your patch ports are in the front, right? So
Okay.
there's
Yep.
no way to breathe from front to back. So what they have to do is breathe side to side. Well, in a lot of applications, that just simply doesn't work because the side is a rack. And if you start sucking air from the side of the rack, it's going to pull air from the hot part of the rack and it's going to pull air from the
Okay.
cold, and you're going to end up with all kinds of heat problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you see a lot of network switch failures that feed side to side. It's a big problem. So we just have a simple product called Switch Air that you plug into the front of the rack, and it feeds air to the right place. Basically, it just takes the cold air, feeds it to the side of the switch so it can breathe right, and the side of the switch kicks it out to the back. We sell thousands of these little. I mean, it's just a really simple box.
Right.
But it solves a real world problem that's fairly simple, you would think, but can be complicated to figure out how to make it work.
That's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. And then you have so what's the difference between DCIM and monitoring? I thought
Yeah,
they
great
were the
question. Great question.
same thing. Yeah.
Uh, so DCIM, that's where I actually started. My previous title with Geist was the president of the DCIM division. So that's really my
Mm.
bread and butter.
Okay.
DCIM is an interesting term, stands for Data Center Infrastructure Management.
Mm.
What's happened in the industry is that term has become like an all-encompassing umbrella for everything that has to do with software in the infrastructure side of the data center.
Okay.
So it's inclusive of things like asset tracking, so knowing where your assets are located, what they are, when they got installed, when their warranty's up, that kind of stuff. Tracking
Mm.
servers and switches and that kind of thing. It's encompassing of that. It's encompassing sometimes of your building management system that's doing control of all these big the cooling infrastructure and things like that. At times, it encompasses even like lighting control and things like that. And then in the middle of all that's kind of this real-time monitoring piece
Mm.
where you're collecting data from the really, really important parts of the data center. Data centers have this goal of being 99.999% available.
Yeah.
You're the five nines.
Mm.
It's a ridiculous stat to try to chase, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my son plays baseball, and it's like, hey, if you're a 300 hitter, you're an all-star. 99.999% is kind of crazy. So DCIM just kind of looks at all of the infrastructure combined
Mhm.
and helps you do planning, helps you
Mhm.
do. It's an operational tool, meaning that you're able to use it on a daily basis to kind of know what's going on with your data center and get alerts and alarms and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It sometimes can have some control elements associated with it, and really, just like I said, becomes an encompassing term for a whole bunch of things. You can even do ticketing. You can throw ticketing into DCIM at times where you're using it as a process kind of tool to say, hey, Joe, I need you to go do this, and Joe says I did this, and then it triggers something for Jim to go do, and that can even be kind of lumped in. These work orders and things can lump into DCIM, so it's a really encompassing term.
Okay.
Monitoring is a subset of it, right?
Okay,
Monitoring
yeah.
is one aspect of this big DCIM umbrella.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the industry has kind of termed it DCIM, and every company then that deals in software in the data center says, oh, I'm a DCIM company. What that does is just confuse the market to death, because I'm a DCIM company and there's a competitor out there, I guess you would say a competitor, saying, well, I'm a DCIM company, but we do two completely different things. Like our products don't overlap in any way. So real-time monitoring is just a subset of what the bigger DCIM puzzle is about.
Okay. So then when you talk about DCIM, then like what's the actual product you sell? Do you sell a server that information goes into? I don't know. Do you sell nodes?
Sure.
What's a product? Yeah.
Yeah, let me describe it a bit. So the product name is Environet.
Okay.
What Environet does is it installs on a VM mostly. Of course, in data centers, you're worried about uptime and resiliency and all that stuff. So to just run it on a pizza box server is not very resilient. So we just run in a VM. It's a software that gets installed. For the real geeky guys, it's a Tomcat server with a MySQL backend. We run a RESTful API that you can connect to kind of gather any kind of information that you want. And what it does is communicate intelligently with all these different devices.
Okay.
So within the data center, there's a whole bunch of different communication protocols. Most of them have these acronyms that you have to get to know a bit, but it's SNMP, which is very common in the IT world. So SNMP, then you get into some facility protocols as well, which are like BACnet, LawnWorks, Modbus. These are more facility-based protocols. And so what we have to do is our software goes out and connects to all these devices through these intelligent protocols. And then we take the raw data that we're getting from all these devices and we make it more intelligent. We kind of we do math functions on it. We create visualizations so that it's not just a big list of here's all your temperatures in the data center, for instance. Instead, what our application shows you is here's a heat map. So now you can kind of see this gradient color changing heat map of how the temperatures in your data center are actually flowing. So at a glance, you can bring that up and go, yep, everything looks good. I'm good to go. Or you can see the red spot. Well, why do I have a hot spot right there? So that's the kind of stuff that I'm, with visualizations. We do alarming, so that's an important operational part. Is you can set these different thresholds and get warning conditions. You can get alarm conditions, and that all happens in real time. So our system, through these intelligent protocols, can pull devices, hundreds of thousands of points of data, and we can pull all that data in within 5 seconds or so. So it happens very, very quickly. We analyze the data that comes in, tell you if you have alarm conditions, we visualize it, we give you some planning tools to say, do what if scenarios. For instance, okay, I'm going to add these 5 new racks. What happens if I plug them in right here? What happens to my power infrastructure? What happens to my cooling load or my heat? And what happens to my overall space capacity? So we give you those planning kind of tools to be an operational kind of element as well. So, there's lots of different things that Environet does, but that's kind of the core of the product.
That's interesting. So with that, since you use SNMP and the other protocols, do you have is there anything that gets too proprietary? Because obviously people have been dumping equipment in their data centers for 20 years now. So if they buy your product, will it more or less work with everything in there? Or
yeah, I mean, these days it's most manufacturers of the big equipment that's out there are being required by the data center managers and the industry generally to place a non-proprietary protocol communication protocol on the device.
Okay.
So when, we first started this 10 years ago or something, that wasn't always the case. And so we'd have to figure out how can we collect information from these particular devices and come up with kind of unique ways to make that happen. But really anymore today, it's pretty rare that you find a device that just doesn't have one of the protocols we can speak. So that's one of the great parts about Environet, is that it's vendor agnostic. We don't care who the manufacturer is. We don't care what the device is really. All we care is, does it have one of these protocols? How can we bring the data in and then make it more valuable to you as the end user?
Oh, okay. So then what do you look at like the price point? So if somebody had a small data center, is this a $500,000 widget, $500 widget? Like how much does it cost?
Yeah, our software, we have kind of an Environet Lite program, if you will. We call it Pro though, Environet Pro. Environet Pro can start as low as a few $1,000s. So it's not, over the top expensive. The full blown enterprise system, it depends on what size, because it's priced per integrated device. So if you only have a handful of rack PDUs, for instance, you can get that. It's tens of thousands, definitely not hundreds of thousands. Some of the DCIM market in general is usually the hundreds of thousands kind of dollars. It's even up to millions of dollars. So GEIST is good value in that industry. If you've got a decent sized data center, you might be selling, maybe it's a $80,000, $60,000 to $100,000 kind of system for a big data center where you're integrating hundreds of devices.
So about what is it per device then? Do you figure like an approximate price?
Yeah, so one of the things with Environet is generally people hire us to do the services for them, right? It's complicated knowing all these protocols. It's complicated figuring out, troubleshooting the communications on some of these things. So when I say 60 to 100,000, that's turnkey. We come in, we do all the work for you. We just hand you the keys and train you on how to use it. So, it kind of depends on what level of service you need. If you're an IT guy and you buy our Pro package and you know how to use SNMP, that price is, you're talking tens of dollars per device to integrate. It's pretty inexpensive. Might be $100 per device. At the base level, it's pretty inexpensive if you're just talking SNMP. When you get into, like I said, the more enterprise level that has a lot more features that are designed specifically for large co-location customers or big enterprise data centers, that price can be $300 to $500 a device, somewhere around there. Just off the top of my head, trying to do the math, but somewhere around there.
Okay, that's pretty decent. So then that's DCIM, and monitoring is a component of DCIM. So is the monitoring just what's already built into your equipment, or is that another piece of software that also talks with other devices?
Yeah, it's a good thing, good question that is sometimes could be a little confusing, because we have the real-time monitoring system in the DCIM side, which is our software-based monitoring tool. But then the other thing we have is a hardware-based, like an appliance monitoring tool. We call them the watchdogs. And watchdogs are essentially, they're not so dissimilar to this kind of hardware device. We actually use the same little option card here on those devices. And what you can do is you can monitor anything from temperature, humidity, door contacts, pressure, smoke detectors, water leak detection. I don't know if I said door contacts already, but you can do door contacts too. You got all these different types of sensors that you can plug into these little appliances. They're $200 appliances. And the target market for that is basically IT closets. So if you've got, let's say you're a small IT group and you've got 7 or 8 different closets that are dotted about, across your enterprise infrastructure. In those closets, you'll have servers, you'll have network gear, you'll have, kind of stuff that's important to operate your business. And understanding the environmental conditions in that room is important. So you take this little watchdog appliance, you plug it in, you connect all the sensors, which are kind of plug and play kind of sensors, real simple. And then you set your alerts and you get email notifications, or you can send SNMP data to a bigger system if you want to do that. But really, it's a simple way for IT managers that don't have the big infrastructure to know what's going on within their individual rooms.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. So then with those sensors, is those sensors you sell, or is this again, it's a non-proprietary, you can buy sensors from anybody?
Some you can buy sensors from anyone because we accept a couple different types of signals. So we
Okay.
have a what's called a 0 to 5 volt signal and a 4 to 20 milliamp signal.
Okay.
Those are those are pretty common signals that you can get from any number of manufacturers on sensors. So you
Okay.
can plug generic sensors in, but we also have, I mean, our sensors are pretty cost effective. They're like, $25 for a temperature sensor or something like that. And
Okay.
all it is an RJ11 connector. You just snap it in, and then you can, run it as many feet as you need, and hang that wherever you need it to go. It's really, they're small, they're simple to integrate with and things like that. So we basically can support both.
Ah, okay, interesting. Then how much would like one of these watchdogs cost approximately?
Yeah, a couple $100 for the entry level one. They go up to I think $399 for kind of the Cadillac version, if you will.
Yeah.
And those will support 16 sensors pretty easily.
Okay.
So you've got, again, in a small network room, if you're talking about, hey, I'd like to know if there's a fire, that's kind of important to me.
Yeah.
So smoke detector, I want to know if there's water leak that comes in. What we do is we string a cable around the perimeter of the room or anywhere where there's a potential for water leak, and
Yeah.
that cable will sense that there's water on it, and it'll alert you immediately. So you can get, I want to know if there's water in there. I want to know if the temperature goes over a particular rate. I want to know maybe there's an air conditioner in there that runs or something. So I want to know if that turns off. So you can do an air sensor, airflow sensor.
Okay.
I want to know if the door opens. If the janitor's in there just mopping up around my servers, I want to know that that's going on. So those are the kinds of things you might do. And for, like I said, couple, $200, $300, $400, $500 maybe total for a server room. It's kind of invaluable information if you're tasked with the idea of uptime.
Okay, that's interesting. So with these things, because I know a lot of that's a problem with like so many people that get certified in IT anymore. They always get the MCSE or the CCNA, and then nobody talks about this stuff. If somebody was interested in learning about this, can you get certified in DCIM, or how? If somebody was like watching this and went, "Whoa, crap! I need to learn about that." Like, how do you learn about that?
That's a really interesting question. I don't believe there's really much many formal programs out there that teach you about SNMP and Modbus and BACnet. I have seen a couple of proprietary companies hold some BACnet training courses. Basically, a BACnet is a kind of a conglomerate of a number of different companies that have come together to say, we want to create a standard. We want to create this protocol. And they've put their resources in kind of an open source kind of idea. They put their resources in to build this BACnet. And I've seen them have some training programs around BACnet. I attended them. I mean, it's been years and years ago, but you might be able to get some training on BACnet.
Yeah.
I really don't know exactly where to go to get SNMP training. Honestly, GEIST, we do it here for our customers and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's fairly unique to just say, hey, come learn all about SNMP communications. DCIM, kind of the same thing, because DCIM isn't, it's not an operating system. It's unique to every company that's out there.
Yeah.
You can go get trained by those companies, but normally that's end users or system integrators or something like that being trained. And really, I think there is a good market for that. If people looking for jobs, being a system integrator of DCIM systems it's a nice little single man kind of operation that you can do if you can specialize and become an expert on a particular manufacturer's product and say,
Okay.
I am the GEIST Environet system integrator. You'll find work, and it's really good paying work too because it's so specialized.
Yeah.
How do you get trained? I think you just have to go to the individual manufacturers, really.
Okay. So with that, do you guys have any kind of partner program or something? Like actually, like if somebody's interested in even buying this stuff, how do they go about buying these products from you?
Yeah, we definitely have partner programs. GEIST doesn't sell anything direct.
No, it doesn't.
So,
Okay.
well, the only thing we do sell direct, we have the Watchdog products. We have our own website that we've had for years and years and years that sells that product, itwatchdogs.com. So that product you can buy direct from us on the website. Everything else we sell goes through some type of value-added reseller or distribution channel.
Okay.
So to buy a GEIST product, I mean, you can call us
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we'll definitely help you. We've got about a dozen to 14, 15 regional kind of salespeople that can come visit and talk to you about your needs and help you design something that's kind of specific to you,
Mm.
or figure out what your spec is. And then what they're going to do is work with you closely and say, okay, here's all the different places you can buy GEIST product from. Which is the way you prefer?
Oh,
And
interesting.
then you'll
Okay.
go through a particular reseller. A number of reasons why we do that, really, but that's our model. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I answered the whole question there, but
Okay. Well, actually, yeah, I'd be curious, like, what I mean, because yeah, I met one of your people had coffee. So like you already have salespeople and they're already meeting with me. So why can't they just grab the check and drop off the equipment?
yeah. It's really a decision that GEIST has made as a company, and there's a reason to be a manufacturer, I guess, and not a direct sales model. And for us, a lot of that reason has to do with the size of our accounting department, right? So
Uh,
if you all of a sudden start dealing with, I mean, GEIST has hundreds and hundreds of end users that buy our product,
yeah.
and if you're setting up credit terms, because a lot of these purchases from us are not just here's $200, here's my credit card, right? A
Yeah.
lot of these are, hey, I'm going to spend $500,000 on PDUs,
Okay.
or I'm going to spend 70,000 on a DCIM system. Well, that's not that's not something you just swipe the card for.
Okay.
So what you're talking about then is setting all these companies up on terms. You have to get a master service agreement in place with them. You've got all the legal elements that come with it. It becomes very, very complicated. So for GEIST to work with partners, one of the primary reasons is that the partners have all of that chaos that comes to them, and that's how they get their money. Now, partners also are a value add to us. So trying to compete in the market with 12 to 15 salespeople is okay. That's in the US. That's okay. But if you've got a whole partner network that is in the data center every day, that has these close communications and these close relationships, that expands our footprint of salespeople, exponentially, without us, having to pay an hourly employee, right? So
Yeah.
they get something. If they sell it, great, you get your markup and off you go. And if they don't sell anything, we don't have to pay them, essentially. So a number of different reasons, but some of them add services too. Some of them will do installations. Some of them kit things together. So they'll buy PDUs from us and they'll buy a rack from another company. They'll buy the servers and everything, and then they'll put it all together and they'll sell that widget to the end user. So a number of different reasons to be a channel company, I guess.
Makes sense, I guess. So then, how hard is it to become a partner? Do you have to have a multi-million-dollar company in order to do it, or can somebody who's already doing some kind of small data center stuff try to do it?
Yeah, we can definitely work with about any size company. I mean, we have several one-man operations that do really good business with us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to figure out how to um, get those one-man operations to be able to fund a $500,000 project, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
that's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility to place on one person. And so, but we're creative with that and helping them figure out how to essentially finance their purchases and make sure that they still get their piece.
Okay.
But a lot of times it's the small companies that really have great success because they have better relationships with the end users than just the big behemoths that, they come in with a massive line card of here's 50 things that I represent. Which ones are interesting to you? That's different than, hey, I've got these two or three things that if you have an issue or if you have a need, you come to me for those two or three things. So being a small business or being a small entrepreneur in this kind of data center market is definitely viable.
Really? I'm actually surprised with that because I would think you'd have to be pretty decent size, $5 million a year company to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers add up quickly when you're
Yeah.
talking about data centers, right? Because
Yeah.
there's no, like I said, there's few $100 application or transactions that happen, right? Most of them
Yeah.
are pretty high dollar. So,
Yeah.
would you do 5 million in revenue? Maybe. Would you get, would you be able to turn some significant money out of that pretty
Yeah.
quickly? Probably. I mean, there's good markup and there's the channel idea in the data center is a viable thing. Like most
Yeah.
companies go through some type of channel partner.
Hmm. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. We're coming up to about the hour mark. So I guess the last question for today, because we'll have more either you on or more people on to talk about PDUs and a little bit more about these products in the future. So the question people always have is, are you hiring? And I guess more importantly for you, like what skill set is valuable to Geist? Like what are the types of people that you're looking for?
Yeah, we are hiring. We have a position or two, I believe, in Lincoln. I should have probably looked this up before we got on. We, in the Lincoln plant, we have a lot of employees there, so we have, more positions that are open on occasion there.
Mhm.
I'm in the Fort Collins, Colorado office. That's really where our software group resides and our professional services team.
Okay.
We do have one position open right now within that team that is an entry level position. It's a nice place to start that doesn't require a whole lot of known skill sets other than the ability and interest to learn and be a self starter.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
this person will come in and they'll do informational videos for us. They'll help us with some user guides, a little bit of product testing, that kind of stuff. It's an entry level. Hey, get to know who Geist is. It's a great position. The person that just vacated that position moved into engineering for us.
Oh wow. Okay.
So there's good room for growth within our company. The skill sets we're looking for really can vary. I think for us, we're interested in culture, right? We are a business that, I mean, we're not Google, I guess, or you hear all the big Google stories of how their campuses operate. And I've been on their campuses, and they are interesting. We're not a Silicon Valley startup, where it's really out there, but we're unique, I think, in the manufacturing world for sure. And we're unique in just being a small business. I mean, our employees go home, they talk to their spouses, and their spouses a lot of times don't believe that we do any work. You know, what do you guys, why are you doing that? What do you do all day, right? I mean, how do
Yeah.
you operate a business? So we believe in having fun. So a lot of times we're looking for the right personality. We're looking for people that have a tech savvy background. With DCIM, as we discussed earlier, there's rarely a skill set that's brought to the table that says, I'm a DCIM certified guy, right? Because
Okay.
it's a new technology. It's still fairly small market size. So when we're looking at hiring DCIM people to do implementation services or to be part of our engineering team or whatever, we're looking at a good tech background that we can teach. That they can prove, hey, I'm really tech savvy. Here's all the things that I do. I'm a Linux user, for instance, right? A lot of times Linux users show you that, hey, they're techie, right? Because they're willing to be on the open source tool that may or may not be supported. And, there's just those little techie pieces like that. And then as long as we feel like we've got the right technical aptitude, then we train for the rest. So it's a little unique that way, I think, with us. But the other thing, I guess, to be said too, if people are looking at career paths, I still believe development is just super in demand. We have a really hard time hiring good developers. And most of our developers here are Java kind of guys. We have some front end technologies as well, and a database person. But any kind of product development in this town, in Fort Collins, Colorado, anyways, the demand is through the roof. You can pretty well write your own check wherever you go.
Really, really. So what languages would you focus on? You're saying Java. Is that what you'd say they should focus on, or what's the big
Yeah,
one?
web development is really good too. Java is it's the middleware processing language that seems to be the one that's sticking. There's Java, or there's like the C# kind of
Yeah.
equivalent.
Yep.
Either one of those, I don't think you can really go wrong with. The full web programming piece is it's an amazing skill set right now to have, because everyone's converting websites and all this stuff into these kind of custom platforms, or taking a particular template that's out there and modifying it to fit their needs. And so this idea of understanding JavaScript and HTML5 and those kinds of web programming languages is, I think, an invaluable skill set as well.
Really? It's kind of funny, just like in 2017, to think that HTML5 and JavaScript is still actually valuable. You'd almost think
Yeah.
it's saturated at this point now.
Well, what's happened with us is Oracle. We used to use a plugin,
Hmm.
for our software. Actually, one of our software packages still has it, so we're desperately trying to move away from it. But the plugins, Firefox is just announced they're discontinuing use of plugins completely.
Yeah,
And then
man.
Oracle's saying they're pulling the plug on the Java applet, which is a really old technology, and so hey, you
Yeah.
should be. But that's creating jobs as well, right? Because people have to convert the stuff that they've been doing forever on Flash or Java applets or whatever the plugin of the choice was at the time. They've got to convert it to these standard web technologies because they don't have a choice. The browsers are forcing them into it. So
Yeah,
it's a good
interesting.
place to be for a career right now.
Okay, good, good. Well, thank you for talking with me today. And like I say, I'm sure we're going to have a few more of these discussions with you or other people at Geist. Is there, if people are interested, do they just go to geistglobal.com, or is there a more specific place that they should go if they're interested in the products or learning more?
Yeah, geistglobal.com is probably the place to go. That's our primary website there. And, it's got all kinds of information on it. You can call us as well. One of the unique things about Geist is we answer the phone. We have no voice automated answering service. Can you believe that?
Really, really, wow.
2017, no voice attendant. So we still answer phones. So give us a call if you got questions or things you want to talk about. And we're happy to answer the phone and help you.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you for being with us today, and I think it's been good for all of us. And stay on the video. I'll stop the broadcast, but I think this has been a good thing. Is there any last thoughts you want to give the folks at home?
No, I appreciate the time. And like I said, if there's things we can help with, just give us a call. Thanks, Eli. Appreciate it.
Cool. Yep. No problem. All right,